Hello everyone, let's look at a linear equation with decimals this time. To handle decimals, we actually treat it like fractions, and actually we can turn decimals into fractions, then we can just solve the equation like an equation with fractions. But we don't really need to do the extra work and convert all of them into fractions. We can actually just directly deal with the decimals. And to do this, we usually will multiply all the terms by some number so that we can get rid of all the decimals. And the way to do it is to just count how many decimal places that you have for the whole equation. So, for example, like in this equation, we have two decimal places for this number here. We have 0.48, right? So that there are two digits on the right side of the decimal point. And so that's the same thing for this number right here, 1.48. And as you can see here, um, we have two digits on the right side of this dot. And then now, if you look at this number right here, this is zero point 0.4. For 0.4, we only have one decimal place right here. And then you may say, what numbers do we multiply in this case? Because we are getting different decimal places, right? So the way to do it is that just we determine by looking at the number with the most decimal places. In this case, that has two decimal places, that has two decimal places, and this number has one decimal place. And then we are going to use the numbers with two decimal places to determine what we need to multiply. So in general, if we have two decimal places, then we need to multiply by 100 to get rid of the decimals. So what are we doing here? We are going to multiply the whole equation by 100. Yeah. So let's just copy down the whole equation here. Then we are going to get 0.48. And then we need to multiply by a number, right? So let's do that. What is that number? That it's going to be 100. So let me highlight the number right here. So we multiply by 100. And then next we are going to get negative 1.48 and then x plus 5. And then what do we need to multiply here? We need to multiply by 100. And then now what about the equation on the right hand side? Basically, once we have decided that we are going to multiply the whole equation by 100, then it doesn't matter how many decimal places that you have for this one. Even though it has only one decimal place, you still need to multiply by 100. So we are going to get 100 right here. Okay, so now what are we going to do? This number 0.48 times 100, that actually will turn into 48, because when you multiply a number by 100, you are going to move the decimal to the right two times, because there are two zeros in this 100 right here, right? So you're going to make this number 100 times itself. So you are going to get 1 and then 2, so you are going to get 48 for this number. So we have 48 right here. And then now the minus sign. Now we take the 1.48 and times 100, and we are going to move two decimal places. So we are going to get 1 and 2. So we are going to get 148. And then you may say, what about the stuff that's inside the parentheses? We are not going to touch them. So we are just going to copy. All you need to do is to turn this decimal into this whole number right here by multiplying by whatever number that we need to multiply. In this case, is the 100. And we are not going to worry about anything that's inside the parentheses yet. Okay, so just copy. And then we are going to get equal, right? And then what do we get here? This is 0.4 and then times 100. Now, if you put 4 right here, that will not be correct, because remember that I mentioned right here when I did the multiplication with the 0.48 times 100, we moved the decimal dot two places to the right, right? Now, if you just imagine that you are going to move this 0.4, I mean this decimal point, two places to the right, and then it's going to look like this. So we have 0.4. So let's do some scratch work on the side here. If you move two places, then it's going to look like this. So that's 1. Okay. And then you need to do one more. So now that's your new decimal dot. And then And then now there is no numbers right here. What do you need to do? You need to actually place a 0 to hold the place. So you are going to get 0 right here. So now what does that number become? And actually remember that now the new decimal point is right here. So it's right here. So what does that mean? That means that number actually is 40. Okay. And then don't forget that there was still an x in there, so we just copy down the x. We didn't do anything to the x, so just copy. Okay, so now we get this equation, and we are seeing a pair of parentheses right here. So the first thing that we need to do is to just multiply this distribute this negative 148 to the x and to the 5. Then let's do that. So we distribute this to the x and then distribute it to the 5. So we are going to get what? Well, the 48, we just copy it down. And then we are going to get negative 148. And then the x. And then you may say, what about the negative 148 times the 5, right? So we can do the calculation on the side right here. We can do the calculation. Right? 148. So just some more scratch work on the side. 148. And then times the 5. We can do a long multiplication. So 5 times 8 is 40. And then 4 times 5 is 24. Right? So we have 24. And then 1 times 5 is 5 plus 2 is going to be 7. Okay, so that's actually just 740, right? And now it's negative 148 times positive. So we are going to get a negative number right here. So it will be negative 740. And then we didn't touch anything on the right hand side here. So we are going to get 40x. Okay, so if there are like terms that we can combine, we should really combine them right now. So it's the 48 minus the 740, we can combine them. And then we are not going to do anything to this negative 148x. So I'm just going to copy it down first. And then you may say, what about the 48 minus the 740? Then we are going to get what? It's going to be a negative number because this negative, it's negative 740 plus the 48, right? So we got to, when we have different signs, we got to do subtraction. And so we are going to get minus, okay, 740 minus 48. So we are going to get negative 600. And then we have 92. And then we have the 40x on the right hand side of the equation. Okay, so next step is that we want to subtract 40x from both sides of the equation because we can get rid of this 40x so that we can get all the x terms on the left side of the equation. Or actually we can move this one to that side, right? So we can actually just add 148x to both sides of the equation, then we can still get all the x terms on the left side and then get all the non-x terms on the left side. So let's do that. So we can add 148x. So 148x. And see that those two terms, they will get canceled because we have one positive 148 and the other one is negative 148. So we can cancel them here completely. Then you are going to get 0 for that. So continuing with the calculation here we are going to get negative 692 on the left side of the equation. And then what about the right side of the equation? We actually need to add the 40x and the 148x together. So we are going to get what is that? That's 188. Yeah, so that's 188, right? 148 plus 40. So we get 188x. Okay, so what is the next step? The next step is to to get rid of the coefficient of the x to turn it into a 1. Actually, not getting rid of it, it's just, yeah. So what are we doing? Actually, in this case, we are going to divide both sides by this number in front of the x, which is 188. Okay, so you know that the 188 and the 188, when you divide them, you're going to get 1, right? So you're going to just get 1 here. So the x is already isolated. This one, we basically will say that this is the answer, but then we can actually reduce the fraction to make it more simplified. In this case, we can try dividing by 4 because they're both even numbers. And the last two digits actually tell us that 4 will go into both numbers. Maybe the larger numbers will go in there, but then we should really just check divide by 4 and then just keep reducing it, right? So let's divide by 4 for both the 692 and then the 188. So let's do that. So you divide by 4 here. Okay, so let me see what color that I can use right here. So maybe I can use the this color right here. So divide by 4. Okay, so basically we are doing 692, right? 692, and then we are dividing by 4. So 692 divided by 4, that's going to be 173. Okay. And then the 188, and we want to divide that by 4. We are going to get divide by 4. That's 4. Then you're going to get to 28 and then 7, right? So 47. Then can we continue to reduce that? No more, right? So we are going to have my answer to be x on this side, right? Because we have 1 over 1 times x, so we get x. What about the left side? The left side, we have negative, 173 over the 47. And then if you want to have the x on the left side, so we say that x is equal to negative 173 over 47. And then we are finished with this problem. You can use your calculator and turn this into a decimal, but it's just unnecessary, right? So we leave the answer like this. Yeah. Okay, so that's it for this problem. And thank you for watching. I will see you next time.